Hello, and welcome to Revamped, a rewatch podcast that revisits my top favorite shows and movies. I'm your host, Brandon Alexander, joined by my co-host,
Courtney Autumn.
Venture with us as we set our sights on the infamous 𝑊𝑙𝑚outh to cover 90s cult classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Follow along from the beginning, spoiler-free, as Courtney views the show for the first time and I revisit the series for new takes and a fresh perspective on its narrative.
Each season, every episode, in order, we will follow Buffy Summers and her friends to examine their character development, the show's underlying themes, along with its major story arcs, all while engaging in conversations, sharing our own authentic thoughts and feelings to what's unfolding before us.
So sharpen your stakes, load your crossbows, and join us as we explore the supernatural world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's get into the episode. Season 1, Episode 1. Welcome to the 𝖊𝑚outh. This episode originally aired on March 10th, 1997 on the WB network as a 2-hour special, with The Harvest following right after. This episode was written by Joss Whedon and directed by Charles Martin Smith. Our synopsis for the episode is, picking up where the feature film left off, Buffy Summers and her mom moved to Sunnydale, California, for a fresh start, unaware of the evil lurking in this quiet suburb. Somewhat reluctant in her role as the Slayer, Buffy quickly makes friends and enemies at her new school, while also meeting her new watcher Giles, the school librarian, just as her newly assembled team encounters the ever-abundant unearthly creatures in Sunnydale. So what'd you think of the episode, mate? I know you've seen it once before, but...
I'm honestly glad that I watched it again because I think when we were in New York, I just was not really taking it fully in. And I was also watching it from a different perspective. Now that I'm having to really dissect everything, it was a whole new journey for me, but I very much enjoyed myself. And I'm in it already. I'm invested. I want to know what all is going to happen. And yeah, I'm here.
Same. Welcome, everybody, to our actual first episode. We're going to get into it and just jump right in. To give a little bit of context, prefacing the show's original air, they had a special promo that came on telling us of a few stories of past Slayers. It was like that same little voice that does the intro monologue that starts at the beginning of the episode. But that was just something that like they put in there, and it's not in syndication with any DVD or like doesn't air nowadays. It happened that one time. I'll have to play it for you at some point so that way you can hear it, but it's super scratchy, so I didn't want to put the audio on here. It's awful. But I thought it was cool that they like put something out there about Slayers and just to like give people that had never even heard about it or never seen the movie, which was cool. But I like the premise of it because it was like, you know, these weird things were happening in town or people were mysteriously vanishing. And all of a sudden this woman came to town and boom, the stuff cleared up. So that was the Slayer. But no one knows because what's a Slayer? We're going to find out this episode. All right, for the first time, the intro monologue plays, and it shows short clips and scenes from across season 1.
In every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
The show opens at night, displaying a school shadowed by trees, making clear the front of the building reads Sunnydale High School. We appear inside, gazing down hallways, showing the library's entrance, an adjacent hallway leading up to a classroom. It's science-related, where we slowly creep by desks, legs, on the floor, and up to the windows along the side of the room. An arm breaks through the window and unlatches it, showing a boy and a girl breaking into the school. I really like the music that's playing in the background. If you recall, it's like piano keys, and it's got that mysterious and ominous tone. It sets it up like something's lurking as they're like going by the school desks.
Yes, I love that. It was very 90s,
Yes.
like
Yeah,
thriller.
for sure. So the girl says to the boy, "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Him assuring her that this is the best idea in the world. Breaking into places is not only legal, but it's fun. And so come on. They exit the classroom and into the main hall, and we can see here clearly that he's a badass because he's wearing a leather jacket, and she is a blonde adorning a classic private schoolgirl's outfit. She questions if he goes to school here, to which he replies that he used to, and that on top of the gym, it's the most ravishing view, and you can see the whole town. She states she's not into going up there, as if she's worried they're going to get in trouble. He, of course, being a troublemaker and sexualizing the moment, takes this opportunity to declare then she can definitely count on that. He leans in for a kiss, but before locking lips, the girl head spins around and she's heard something. She goes, "What was that?" He didn't hear anything, but she regurgitates to him, "I heard a noise." He assures her once again it was nothing. She's uncertain and says that maybe it's something. Or maybe it's something, he replies. Her not finding this funny, he moves away from her, peering around the corner. "Hello," he whispers sarcastically and reaffirms it's just the two of them there. She asks if he's sure, looking away towards the other end of the hall. He says, "Yes, now let's make out, bitch." And she says, "Okay," then whips her head back toward him, her face now morphed into the brow region, ghastly white, bestowing yellow eyes and a set of fangs. She grabs a hold of him by the shoulders, and he is shocked and bites into his neck as he collapses to the ground, her motioning down along with him. Now, this is the first time that we get to see what a vampire's face looks like in this universe, and this is pretty much how they're portrayed throughout the rest of the series, with some little, spoiler alert, minor tweaks and things like that, but this is pretty much the formation of vampire face that we will come to know and not love.
AKA creepy.
disgust. AKA, I kind of want to be one.
Listen, do you want to hear my short synopsis on what I wrote down about this
Yes.
scene? I wrote, classic, seemingly innocent girl and boy looking for a private place to hook up turns into not so classic female vampire demon face eats boy alive.
Oh my God, why is that the best thing I've literally ever heard in my life? Oh my God, you have to do this now for every single episode. Just for the opening scene, because I feel like there's always before the main Buffy themes, which, boom, we get the title card at this moment where the Buffy theme plays.
That's also been stuck in my
Love
head.
that for you. It's always stuck in my head. I'm always singing it, and everyone's like, "What are you singing?" And I'm like, "Go listen to the podcast and you'll know." But no, I agree, and you have to do that like every episode.
We have to have some.
I will
Yeah.
say that I thought it was interesting. I noticed for the first time along dissecting this that the title card that plays, obviously Sarah Michelle Gellar, Nicholas Brendan, Allison Hannigan, Charisma Carpenter, and Anthony Stewart Head, the order that we see them in the main titles, it's also in the first episode the order that we meet the characters that are in the main title sequence as well.
Oh, are you saying like it's an order?
Yeah, like how in the music
That's
sequence,
interesting.
like the people in the episode are introduced in that exact same order that are in the title sequence. I didn't
Wow.
know that until this time
Okay,
around. I
that's
thought it was cool.
interesting. I didn't notice that. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Getting back into the episode, we open on a shot of Buffy in her bedroom asleep into the night, tossing in her plush white linens, having vivid dreams depicting cemeteries, vampires, candlelit dungeon-like cathedrals, a book displaying the title Vampire with a Y. Vampire is not spelled that way, but whatever. Across pools of blood, actual vampires, and a terrorizing face ending with a growl before she is startled out of her sleep by a voice calling out to her from another room. "Buffy, I'm up, Mom," Buffy calls out to her. "Don't want to be late for your first day." Ugh, that sounds so annoying, I'm just going to say. Buffy dreadfully speaks, "No, wouldn't want that," with an air of sarcasm. Our next shot pans to Sunnydale High School, this time with the bright light of sun shining down on it, with crawling students on campus instead of vampires. Sunnydale High is also, just to throw out a note, a real school. It's called Torrance High School, located in California. It's a popular filming location where we've seen like shows like Beverly Hills 90210, a 90s little spinoff series from A Nightmare on Elm Street for Freddy's Nightmares. She's All That was filmed here with Freddie Prinze Jr., who is actually Sarah Michelle Gellar's husband. Not another teen movie. The werewolf movie Cursed with Christina Ricci, if you've ever seen it, and Bruce Almighty all use this lot for their filming. Buffy's mom drives up to the front in her green Jeep Cherokee, which I always wanted as a car back in the day. Now I have that red Jeep and got to change it to green so I can look like her mom. She drops off Buffy and tells her to have a good time and that she knows she'll make friends right away and to think positive, with 2 awful thumbs up. Buffy tries to walk away, her mother saying,
"And honey, try not to get kicked out. I promise."
Buffy assures her. As Buffy walks off towards the entrance approaching the school, via skateboard on sidewalk, a boy we come to learn's name is Xander is shouting for people to get out the way as he clearly has no business being on this device in the first place, while stating he doesn't know how to stop, weaves in and out of people as they leap away, panning out and showing Buffy walking up the steps. She distracts him even more with his focus, and he crashes into the railing and tumbles underneath it. A girl stopping right as this occurs, very much knowing who he is, Willow. He looks up at her as she tucks her hair behind her ear, claiming she's just the person he wanted to see. "Really?" she asks, and he follows up with that he had a problem with his math homework, her questioning which part and him stating, "The math." At this point, he needs her to help him.
Please be my study buddy.
He begs her. Willis and Jesse stop by the library to pick up a trigonometry book that he will need, and he acts as though he's never heard of this foreign place. Their friend Jesse meets them at the front entrance, and Xander asks him what's up, and he replies, "New girl." Xander agrees he too had just spotted her and that she is a hottie, while Willow offers that she heard someone new was transferring to school. Then he gives his best Kim Possible "What's the sitch?"
So what's the sitch?
He gives that to Jesse, and he just states back to her, "New girl," again commentating that that's all he really knows, and Xander exclaims that he is a font of nothing. We cut to see Buffy sitting in the principal's office as the principal moves from behind her towards his desk with a filed folder mentioning she is a sophomore late of Emory High of LA, and she has an interesting record, and she's had quite a career as he rips the paper into 4 shreds, welcoming her to Sunnydale, and that here she gets a clean slate. The past is the past, and they aren't interested in what the file reads. As he ponders perception down the papers again, he grows worried, possibly regretting his initial statements. Buffy calls out Principal Flutie, to which he states that the students here are free to call him Bob. So she gears back and calls him Bob, and he says, "But they don't." I thought at this point where we go, "But not," which
But they
confuses
don't.
her even further, but flustered, she says that she realizes her transcripts are a little colorful as he starts to tape back together the transcript, stating that he's not sure colorful is the right word. Buffy claims it wasn't that bad, and then he mentions, "You burned down the gym." Admittedly, she agrees that she really did, but the big picture is that it was full of vampire, which she corrects herself and says asbestos. Really, Buffy, mold, that's what you got? Mold. The school had mold, so I burned it down. That seems, yes, exactly. He once again reassures her that he's not interested in bringing up her past, and this high school hopes that her needs for schooling and their expectations of a student need to mesh respectfully. I noted that I love Buffy's 90s baby bangs in this scene. We get like more shots on just like her face up front. And it's cringy to look at now, low key though, but I low key would have adored that. And little clip in the hair is not a fan of. Yeah, I feel like every girl had like little clip.
I literally I wrote a note down about the clip because I was like, "Why?" First off, why are we wearing a hair clip? Just there, it's just there.
It's
You know
literally
what I
just there.
mean?
It's
Like,
not
it's not
pulling.
serving a
Yes.
purpose. It's literally just clipped into, like,
Side
the
of her head.
mid backside of her head for no reason. It's not holding any hair back, it's just there.
Exactly, which, back in the day, we used to put, like, clips. They had the little butterfly clips on my
That
sisters,
I can
like, to pull your bangs out your
understand.
face or keep a piece. Now, I will say that it is adorned in a weird way, like, they just threw that shit up in her head in the dressing room, but
Literally.
I
No,
think it's
truly, they
supposed
were
to
like,
keep
"Here."
the rest of her hair from falling over on top of those baby bangs because it's the teeniest little section, but I will say that, in my notes, I wrote that they are trying to get across that she's more of that innocent little blonde girl that, like,
Yeah.
gives it just that, she's innocent.
They, like, threw it on her head, and they were like, "That makes you look 3 years younger."
I also wrote that, Principal Flutie is a vibe here, that he's really dorky, and I hated my principal in middle and high school because she followed us from middle school to high school, and she was awful, but I would have so much rather had Principal Flutie because he was just, like, pretty chill for the most part.
Yeah.
Buffy leaves his office, and fumbling in her bag where 2 students cause the bag to spill out, bumping into her. Xander sees this and immediately stops, offering help to her, exclaiming, "Can I have you?" Instead of help, like, "Can I help you?" No, "Can I have you?" He corrects himself and then asks if he knows her, and she informs him she's new and her name is Buffy. They both reach around for her scattered items, and he introduced that he's Xander, and that maybe he will see her around school since they both go there. So fucking awkward. She politely smiles and thanks him, saying it was nice to meet him, and she walks away. Him looking down at the forgotten item and picking it up,
Oh, hey. Hey, you forgot your steak.
but she doesn't hear him. So why does she have a weapon up in school? Like, nowadays, people will be searching bags. Is Buffy not afraid of getting caught by this? And what if Xander was a dick on her first day and showed that to Principal Flutie since she was right outside the office and got her in trouble? Like, what?
Well, that and I'm just like, I don't know. First off, are you not trying to be low key about stuff and you're just out here with your weapon that's gonna identify you? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like she just had like a knife where it's just like a knife that any random person could have. This bitch got a stake.
Big ass sharpened piece of wood.
What are we left to
But, like,
assume?
also, it's daytime and you're going to school. So were you expecting to see a vampire on campus in the broad daylight? Some
Mhm.
slayer. No, I'm just kidding. Immediately cutting to history class, Buffy sits listening, taking notes as the teacher lectures about the Black Plague, referencing a map in their textbooks as she realizes, well, she ain't got no book. and begins to look around the room as the girl next to her leans over with her textbook so Buffy can follow along. Buffy thanks her, and the bell rings as they cut the lecture short, where the girl says to her, offering a handshake, "Hi, I'm Cordelia." Buffy states her name back, and Cordelia says that she should grab a textbook of her very own from the library. Buffy, not knowing where this is, Cordelia invites to show her, saying that she's from Hemry in LA, right? She would kill to live in LA, that close to that many shoes. Cordy apparently already knows a little about Buffy. Obviously, Willow heard a little bit too. When we had new students coming to school, we just all of a sudden saw them. We never heard about some new students coming, but apparently this is that small
I
town vibe. I
know.
mean, I'm from Sumter. I never heard about somebody new. I was just like, who the fuck this new bitch?
Well, I thought that too. I thought that when Willow was like, "I heard about a new transfer," and I was like, "But from where?"
Exactly, no context. But Cordelia seems to know she's from Hemry in LA. But I guess Cordelia does her little research because she's got to know who's going to be popular, who's not. But I wrote,
And this was before social media, by the way, so there was not, like, just knowing someone's name and being like, "Oh, let me get on Facebook and find out every single thing about them,"
yes,
you know what I mean? Like, you literally had to do some, like, die-hard digging to know any
the
information
diehard
about them.
digs. Yeah, I wrote that she knew this just because she was the head popular girl and must be aware of who's attending her school. Does she know Buffy was cool at her last school? Is this why she gives her the time of day and a chance because she knows Buffy comes from cool vibes? Because in the movie, Buffy's set up as like head cheerleader and head of the dance committee and all this other stuff. So she's very popular in her other
Yeah.
school, which we will see later on in another clip. But spoiler free, spoiler free. They laugh and continue on their way. Cordelia states that she can be okay here if she hangs with her group. But of course, she'll have to test her coolness factor, skipping a written portion of the test, beginning to ask her questions about vamp nail polish.
Um, over? So over. James Spader. He needs to call me. Frappuccinos. Trendy but tasty. John Tesh, the devil.
She tells Buffy that last one was a gimme, but she passes. Buffy exclaiming, "Oh, good." As they stop at a water fountain Willow is sipping from. Cordelia sarcastically speaks, "Willow, love your dress. Nice to see you've seen the softer side of Sears." I wrote here, okay, but really, this outfit is horrendous. They really played out the whole Bible selling geeky looking girl down to the
Yes,
tights. But
truly.
Cordelia's like a total bitch right here to innocent little Willow. I feel for Willow in this
I
scene, and
know.
I always do. Cordelia definitely obviously knows fashion, and I do love her like green pants that she's wearing in this scene, to throw that out there. But I was just like, this gets our first taste of Cordelia's not only just like a popular girl, she's like that iconic mean girl, popular girl.
She's like a Regina
Yes,
George
the
for sure.
brunette Regines. She's like Gretchen, but not.
I felt most bad for Willow when she was walking away from the water fountain after that interaction, and she just
She
looked
looks
so
so
sad.
sad. Buffy takes
Yeah.
notice of this mean girl display as Willow replies, her mom picked it out for her. Cordelia rudely stating, no wonder she's such a guy magnet, once again being a bitch, pointedly directing her eyes at the fountain, asking, are you done? Willow awkwardly says, oh, quickly moving away. Cordelia says that once you can identify the losers, you can avoid them easier. If she wants to fit in, that is. Buffy looks upset and just peers off at Willow, who's treaded off. Finishing their journey to the library, they stop in front of it, Cordelia mentioning Buffy should stop by the only club worth going to tonight called the Bronze. That's in the bad part of town, just a half a block away from the good part of town. Cordelia saying she'll see her in the gym and can tell her absolutely everything there is to know about her. Buffy turns and pushes open the library, swinging double doors, muttering to herself, great, that sounds like fun. Apparently she's not really vibing with Cordelia, but she's gonna do her best to fit in. We get our first look at the library as Buffy calls out, hello, is anybody here? Seeing a newspaper article on the counter with a circled article over there being 3 boys missing in the area. Suspenseful music builds when a hand taps her on the shoulder from behind. She spins around to face the man, him asking if he can help her. She states she's new and looking for books. Miss Summers, he inquires aloud, as she says, good call, guessing that I'm the only new kid, huh? Him then stating,
I'm Mr. Giles, the librarian. I was told you were coming.
As he motions around the counter to go behind it. Her beginning to list off the books she needs for him, silencing her with a finger, he exclaims he knows what she's after. Reaching down below on a shelf, he pulls out a thick book, slamming it down onto the counter. The book looks ancient and reads the word vampire with a Y across its front. Buffy, immediately looking freaked out as she has just dreamed about this the night before, backs away from the counter. That's not what I'm looking for, as her face grows worried. Sarah Michelle Gellar has great acting right here. I will say her mood just like immediately changes. But also
Yes.
she's like got
She looked like she shit
she shit all
herself.
over her pants. She had to go right there and change that skirt in the undies. But it, like, makes sense too because, I mean, she's got that whole fear of her Slayer duty again, and she's like, "Fuck this shit." He asks if she's sure. She says way sure. He offers that it must have been a mistake sending the book back where he retrieved it from, turning away from her slightly as she walks off to the exit of the library, wondering what she was looking for then. But by the time he turns back fully, she's gone and he catches just the glimpse of her backside walking through the doors. We cut to girls in the locker room where two girls walk to their lockers commenting on the new kid and how she seems weird. And what kind of a name is Buffy anyway? As someone calls out to her, "Hey, Aphrodisia." I was like, "What?" The other girl
I
stating
know.
that she heard she was kicked out of her old school for starting fights. As the girl opens the gem locker, still gossiping over Buffy, the boy's body from the night before falls out onto her shoulder, onto the floor. She freaks out, screaming in hysterics, and we fade to black. How these bitches up in here gonna be picking about Buffy's name when her name is Aphrodisia?
I
Like,
know. I thought the
the
same thing. I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a deflection."
she knew. But also, your name is Aphrodisia. Your parents were clearly like eating oysters whenever you were conceived. All right, this
Exactly.
is like one of my favorite scenes from this episode. Outside in the courtyard, we see Willow removing a brown paper lunch bag from her backpack as Buffy walks up from behind her.
Hi. Willow, right?
Why? I mean, hi. Did you want me to move?
Why don't we start with, hi, I'm Buffy, and then let's segue directly into me asking you for a favor.
Adding that it doesn't involve moving, but it does involve hanging out with her for a while. Willow says, "But aren't you hanging out with Cordelia?" Buffy wonders that she can't do both. Willow claims, "Not legally." No, she can't. Not at all. It's not legal. Buffy laughs and says that she wants to get by here, and while Cordelia has been nice, to her anyway, she heard that a rumor that Willow could help her with her studies, and she really needs help not flunking out while also pulling out her lunch. I thought that Buffy and Willow both rocking paper bag lunch was totally 90s because most people don't. They have like actual like lunch boxes nowadays with cool prints and shit like that on it. But
Hell
I was
yeah.
like, damn, paper bag in it. I also thought it was cool that they chose to mirror the two of them sitting down having lunch together as well. I wanted to throw in here in the movie Jawbreaker. I don't know if you've seen that or not with Rose McGowan and where they kill their friend and
Mhm.
stuff. But
Yeah.
Rose McGowan character's Courtney Shane. She commentates whenever they help Violet become a popular girl to keep her whenever she was Fern from telling on the group because she witnessed them, putting it in her room and staging her death. She mentions whenever she pulls out a brown paper bag when she's cool that nobody should ever be caught eating out of a brown paper bag.
We never, ever eat at lunch period. Do you understand me? But for some damn good reason we did, we would never, ever eat at the brown paper bag. I don't care if there's a 4-star fucking culinary masterpiece in there. Get rid of it. Sorry.
And I was like, ooh, damn. Anyways, Willow gets excited and claims that she could totally help her out and that they could meet in the library if she wants to, if 6 period's free. Buffy is automatically hesitant, stating, or not. The library gives her the Wiggins, trying to avoid a run-in with that area again after her butt-in with Giles earlier. Willow agreeing, most kids feel that way, but she's geeking out over how she loves it and dotes on how cool the new librarian is and how he has the best books. Buffy, picking up on this fact, asks, he's new? Willow informing her that he's just started and came from England working at a British museum, once again starting to geek out over the history. But she
Mhm.
catches herself calling out that she must be the single dullest person. Buffy assures her that she's not. At this point, Jesse and Xander walk up, making themselves comfortable, affirming that they are interrupting the girls' chat. Willow introduces to the two boys. Xander informs her that he has already known Buffy for so long, they go way back. Buffy looks at him like he's a fucking dork and crazy as he babbles like an idiot. And then Jesse remarks that he's turning into a babbling idiot. Buffy kindly says it's nice to meet them officially, she thinks. Jesse continues that they wanted to come over and welcome her and make her feel at home. Xander, cutting him off, states, and to return this, retrieving a beef steak from his bag. Jesse eyes it, trying to figure out what the hell, holding it before everyone, stating, the only thing I can think is that you're building a really little fence. Buffy grabs it and laughs, saying that it was actually for self-defense, how everyone in LA has them, and how pepper spray is so passe. Xander begins to question Buffy about what she likes to do for fun, what she likes, what she looks for in a man. Jesse adds, if you have any dark, painful secrets you'd like to dispublish. I never got that comment before, because most people wouldn't just ask you to do that, but he just also like saw Xander give her back that piece of wood, and he's probably, do you have anything you want to tell us? So like I caught that this
I
time
know.
around in a little bit more context. Buffy awkwardly says, gee, everyone wants to know about me. How keen. Xander proclaims that she's pretty big news around here. This is obviously how everyone knows about her because it's news. Something finally happening. Buffy assures him that she's really not, as Cordelia walks up to the group, asking if these guys are bothering her. Buffy replies, no, in a friendly tone, and Willow covers her tracks, going,
She's not hanging out with us.
that shit kills me every time. Jesse's getting up to speak to Cordelia, saying hey, as if she's probably never walked up and talked to them before, so this is his chance. To which she immediately throws up a hand in his face, saying, oh, please, as if, essentially. And how she doesn't want to interrupt Buffy's downward mobility. I died when she said this, and I'm going to remember to say this term to people from now on whenever they're having an obvious decline, because that shit tripped me the fuck out. I don't want to interrupt your downward mobility.
I thought the same thing. I was like forever using that.
But she wanted to come over and inform her that she won't be meeting Coach Foster, the lady with the chest hair, because Jem has been canceled due to an extremely dead guy found in the locker. Buffy grows curious, saying what? Willow asking what she's talking about. Cordelia continues to let the group know that some dead guy was stuffed in Aura's locker. Once again, that other girl's name was Aura. Aura and Aphrodisia. Okay, at least Aura's got a cool name. But he was dead. Buffy questions again. Totally dead. Way dead. Xander blurting out, not just a little dead then. Cordelia grows tired of him, exclaiming,
Don't you have an elsewhere to be?
Jesse looks to Cordelia, then offering his shoulder for her to cry on, or, take a nibble on. Cordelia rolls her eyes as Buffy asks, how did he die? Cordelia doesn't know. Were there any marks? Buffy follows up. Morbid much? Cordelia replies to her disgust. She didn't ask all those questions. Buffy grabs her things and takes off quickly, saying that she's got to book it and she'll catch them all later. We cut to a hallway as Buffy walks around the corner towards a set of closed doors. Taking in if anyone is around watching her move, she pulls on it, noticing that they are locked, takes a look around again, and sensing it's clear, gives the door another gentle tug, this time exuding more force and ripping the door clear off its fucking hinges and splitting the wood, tearing it right on open. I love this because it's a nice display of like what her strength can do, because she barely just wiggled on that door and that thing's up. She walks by some lockers where the boy's body is covered by a sheet, lifting it up to reveal his body, displaying his pasty pale skin and bite marks on his neck. Great, she proclaims as she lets out a sigh, shaking her head. Our next shot is the library door swinging open and Buffy entering, loudly screaming into the space, okay, so what's the sitch? Giles pokes his head from behind a bookshelf up a staircase to a small second layer of the library floor, saying sorry. Buffy says, you heard about the dead guy in the locker, right? Giles says that he has. Buffy continues that it's the weirdest thing. He has two little holes in his neck and that all his blood's been drained. Giles just looking at her. Buffy lets out, isn't that bizarre? Aren't you just going, ooh? I was afraid of this, Giles replies. Well, I wasn't, Buffy stating it's her first day. She thought she'd been trapped in the mundane realms of being behind classes, that she'd make no friends or have last month's hair, not that there would be vampires on campus, and that she doesn't care. Then why are you here, he asks. Catching herself, she says, to tell him that she does not care, and has now told him, and she begins to walk away, saying, bye. Will he rise again? Giles asks her, causing her to pause. No, he's just dead, Buffy says. Giles questioning if she's sure, Buffy stating that in order to make you a vampire, you have to exchange blood sucking between one another, and that mostly they're just there to kill you. Confused why she's still even talking to him, she picks up walking away again, Giles following after her, stating that she has no idea what's going on, does she? That it's coincidence her being here, and that boy is just the beginning. Buffy, fed up, looks at him. Why can't you people just leave me alone?
Because you are the Slayer. Into each generation, a Slayer is born. One girl in all the world, a chosen one born with a
Strength and skill to hunt the vampires, to stop the spread of their evil, blah, blah, blah. I've heard it, okay?
Giles doesn't understand her attitude. She's clearly accepted her duty as slain vampires before. Buffy saying she's both been there and done that and is moving on. Giles going on to ask what she knows of this town, Buffy sarcastically stating that it's hours away from the closest Neiman Marcus, which I guess was cool in the 90s. Giles informs her the town has a history, a stream of odd occurrences that attracts mystical energy, and you might not find that elsewhere, naming out multiple types of creatures and how they're all real. Buffy states that she wants to retire from being a Slayer and suggests that Giles does it for her. We learn Giles is a watcher, and he doesn't have the skill. Buffy telling him a stake through the heart, a little sunlight, it's easy. It's like falling off a log. He begins again that a Slayer slays and a watcher watches? Buffy interrupts. Yes, no, Giles explains. The watcher guides the Slayer. He trains her. He prepares her. Buffy, growing agitated, looks at him. Prepares me for what? For getting kicked out of school? losing all my friends, for having to spend all of my time fighting for my life and never telling anyone because I might endanger them? Go ahead, prepare me. She smarts off to him. Giles takes her statements in, realizing he has upset her and understanding how her position may seem. Buffy walks out of the library doors, him exclaiming, "Damn," and follows after her. I like Buffy's quick wit here with her dialogue across the scene. The sarcasm she just like puts out there immediately is definitely probably why I'm so sarcastic in life. I just want to throw out there.
I can see
Once
that.
they leave, we peer back into the library as Xander walks from behind the same bookshelf where Giles was helping him locate that book that Willow had suggested. Having forgot he left Xander there, a stumped look on his face, Xander lets out, "What?" I wrote here that, like, did Giles really just forget that Xander was in there with him? Like, he went on this whole monologue and, like, was given all this information. Giles is supposed to be, as we've come to know, a higher intellectual being. Like, did he really just forget, or he was just taken aback because Buffy came back? Like, I really don't know, but
I feel like I can tell already that he's gonna be one of those people that reminds me of the phrase, "You're so smart, you're stupid."
for Giles? Oh my god.
Yeah, because of shit like that. Like, he's so smart, and you can tell already that
Uh,
he's gonna be, like, the voice of reason, but he's just, like, not with it with his surroundings, where he'll just be doing shit like that, like, mindlessly, and he'll be like, "Oh,
love that for
you're
Giles.
there." No awareness.
Out in the hallway, Giles catches up to Buffy, nearly out of breath, saying, "It's getting worse." "What is?" she asks. "An influx of the undead, supernatural occurrences building for years. Now there's a reason why you're here, and a reason why it's now." Buffy assures him it's just because it's the time her mom decided to move there and begins to walk off again. Giles propping his arm up against the wall beside her to block her. He says something is going to happen here soon. That the signs, as far as he can tell, point to a crucial mystical upheaval, possibly in days. Buffy striking it off, telling him, "Come on, this is Sunnydale. How bad of an evil can be here?" We are guided back outside the front of the school as the shot pans past it and down to some bushes beneath the ground, revealing a candlelit cavern just underneath the grounds. Vampires are carrying torches around, bringing in more light as a voice mutters, "The sleeper will wake," 4 times, and the world will bleed. As we catch a shot of the vampire's face kneeling before a pool of blood in the ground, he finishes with an "Amen." I just have to pick at it because, like, Luke's voice the whole time. He always talks like this. But it's funny because the actor's voice is very similar to exactly how that is. He's not even like trying. That's just the actor's voice. He's in
Poor
like a
dude.
Charmed episode. Anyways, we're back in Buffy's room after this scene, and she's throwing clothes across her bed. She's looking into the mirror, holding up different ones, trying to choose which one to wear.
This killed me.
One is leather, and she states, "Hi, I'm an enormous slut."
No, and then the next
And then
one
the
was
next
even
one, she
better.
goes,
Hello, would you like a copy of The Watchtower?
It was like a dress with
I know, right?
ruffled
She's
shoulders
like
or
commentating
something.
that these are what these give off. I will say that I read something online saying how this was like a coined phrase, and everybody back in the day in the 90s and early 2000s used to always be like, "Look at that whore, look at that slut," or like "that bitch." Like, that bitch is still a thing now, but
Yes.
girls used to just so aimlessly call each other and themselves like sluts back in the day without that meaning like that they were
Yeah.
a connoisseur of whore. But
And probably had never had sex with a single individual and be calling each other
exactly,
sluts.
but I wanted to note that the WB network made an issue over this whenever they gave the script off in the episode for them to view, and they didn't know if they wanted that to be in there or not, just because they didn't know what they wanted to represent and, like, what kind of context they wanted to put out there, and the word itself was very controversial, but it obviously ended up making it into the final airing because they were trying to imply that it's not great to be a slut, which I'm like,
Yeah,
"Alright,
I
great."
see.
Frustrated that this seems so hard and that she used to be good at putting an outfit together, her mother walks into the room and asks her if she's going out tonight. Buffy informs her that she's heading out to a club, and her mother wonders if there will be boys there. Buffy assures her with an air of sarcasm that it's actually a nun club. Being careful is her mother's warning for the night. She continues that she thinks that they can make it work here in town, that she has positive energy flowing, and her gal. I know she's us.
Listen, listen. I literally have a note about this, and I put the mom's level of delusion. She said, "I've got the vibes." What'd she say? "I've got the positive vibes flowing," and I was like, "No, you don't know."
Yes.
Anyway, go on.
I've got my positive energy flowing.
Her gallery is now getting onto its feet and that she may have found a space for it today. Buffy tells her that that's great, and she sets some clothes back in the closet. Her mother lets her know that she understands that this is a new town and school, and it's hard. And she really wants to make it work. And hopefully Buffy will be the good girl she knows that she can be, and the past can be behind them. Buffy saying, "It is. From now on, I am only going to hang out with the living. I mean the lively people." Her mom wishes her a fun time out as Buffy continues her outfit search. I think that's funny that you said that her mom is delusional, because clearly that whole scene is like exactly that. Like, she
Just
just doesn't hear
outfits
her.
it.
She's like, "I'm only gonna hang out with the living," and she doesn't like question that. She's not like, but Buffy caught herself, so we good to go. Later that night, we see Buffy walking down the street wearing a blue button-up, white shirt, pants, and boots. I just gotta say, because this is her first, that's the outfit that she chose to wear. Um, Everybody always notates, and I completely agree, that this baby blue color absolutely works for Sarah Michelle Gellar. It would work on any blonde of like paler tones in their hair. Like that baby blue, it like iconically looks good, and she actually wears it a good bit through, I would say, the series, but for sure season 1. And I also commented that I like her purple bubbly ring. You'll see it more when she meets the man that gives her the cross in the alleyway later. You can see her little ring when she puts up her fist. But that was like a total like 90s thing, like back in the day too. And the girls used to wear like those spoon rings. Do you remember those? Ugh,
Yes.
gross. Those
No.
are not a thing. Purpley bubbly rings, exactly. As she walks, we catch a glimpse of a second pair of feet treading behind her, following her. She catches on and slightly looks behind her, but continues walking, picking up her pace. She approaches an alleyway, slightly running a little forward, looking around, knowing that the person is closing in behind her. She looks upward, and we see the figure of a man in a leisure suit jacket with white button-up under it appear from under the corner, now staring into an empty alley. Wondering where she has gone to, he slowly motions forward, looking for her. As we get a panned-up shot of Buffy on a bar above him, suspending herself upside down by the hands, holding onto the bar from it in between two building walls, gymnastic style, out of sight. As soon as he passes under her, she lets her body fall, circling down as her feet slam into his back, knocking him down and tumbling him onto his back. She flips downward and plants a foot on his chest. He chuckles.
Is there a problem, ma'am?
Yeah, there's a problem. Why are you following me?
I know what you're thinking. Don't worry. I don't bite.
She pulls her foot off him and allows him to get up to his feet, while her fists remain up, ready for anything. This is where we can see the purple bubble ring. He grabs at his neck, telling her he thought she'd be taller or bigger with muscles, but that she's pretty spry. What does he want, she asks. And he says the same thing you want. Okay, what do I want? She annoyingly drops her fist and opens her arms, shrugging. To kill him all, he replies. Nah, brah, wrong. What I want is to be left alone. She obviously didn't say nah, brah, but that's how I'm saying. She said it. She begins to walk off from him. He continues that it's not really an option and that she's standing on the mouth of hell, which is about to open. He reaches into his inner coat pocket, pulling out a velvet box, tossing it over to her, saying, "Don't turn your back on this. You've got to be ready." What for? She wonders. For the harvest, he tells her. Who are you? She asks.
Let's just say I'm a friend.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't want a friend.
I didn't say I was yours.
Leaving the alley, he turns back to look at her once more, clapping back.
Bitch.
Bitch. Once gone, she opens up the box to reveal a silver cross necklace. I have to tell everyone in the world, and you, that I have this cross necklace. It was originally made for a company called Factory X, where they made like props for movies and TV shows. And I had to beg my dad to order that shit for me. I'm always having to beg people to buy me Buffy stuff, apparently, because as I prefaced in the introduction episode, I was like, Art, please buy me season 1. Please buy me season 1. He was like, all right, great, let's buy you season 1. But it's the actual first thing I ordered on the internet ever. Yes, the
What?
first item.
Oh, that's crazy that you
Yeah,
remember
but I
that.
mean, I remember it too, because like that was
Well,
when it
obviously
was
because
just
it's
coming
Buffy.
out. Like we didn't have Amazon back then or really anything.
Wait, what did you have to order it from? Like the
I think I went
website
to Factory
directly? If
X.
it like
I
needed.
want to say I saw it in an
Okay.
ad when I was like, because I was always looking at Buffy stuff online, and I think I saw it in an ad somewhere.
You were like, I ordered it on
Yeah, but
QVC.
basically that's what I was about to say is like QVC and all those little TV show programs.
Like as seen on
Yeah,
TV
people used to
things.
sit on their phone and put in their credit card information to order stuff that they were seeing like as seen on TV type shit. But that was not the case here. This was essentially, like I said, my first purchase. And I still have it. I don't have the chain that came with it because it got really nasty and all eroded, but I still have the actual cross itself. I don't wear it though, because, you know,
I will say I wrote a note about this man And I was like, enter a typical man shouting out demands while being elusive and sarcastic.
Exactly. We'll come to, as we basically find out later, Buffy coins his ass as being like this ominous person that tells her cryptic information.
Yeah,
Anyways, Buffy
basically.
continues on her way towards her destination, walking up towards the bronze's entrance, handing money to a man at the door. And I will say that this is the first and only time we ever see an exchange of money at the entry of the bronze. Any other time, they're just already in there, or when they walk in, they don't ever have to pay for it. I don't get it. But they enter and we hear the song Believe being performed by the band Sprung Monkey. I actually love the song. I have it in my like Spotify stuff, as with a bunch of other Buffy music. There's a crowd and people are dancing and having a good time. Buffy stands around moving to the music when a guy waves at her in her direction, her waving back super excited, only to realize that he wasn't waving at her at all. It's just the guy behind her he was trying to wave to. And we've all had this shit happen to us. It was not a cute moment. Literally.
Not.
Embarrassed, she moves over
Okay.
towards the bar where she finds Willow eating a box of raisins. Raisins, Willow? Who eats these as a
Why?
snack? Apparently, in the 90s, people really did do this. I like golden raisins, and I'll
Mm.
make them in one specific pasta recipe that I have, but that's the only way I can eat raisins. You ain't never gonna eat me seeing
I'm
mm-mm.
yeah, I was gonna say, you're not gonna catch me eating no
Like,
damn
I'll eat some
raisins
grapes
now.
before they
Yep,
turn into
on
raisins.
a salad, maybe, but I'm not
Mm-mm.
just be
Nope,
chilling
you ain't
with a
got me
box of
eating raisins
raisins.
in a salad. You ain't got me eating no fucking oatmeal raisin cookies. You ain't got me eating no fucking little
Joy, I need my grapes to
mm-mm.
not be
It's
dry.
keep the dole away from me. Anyways, Buffy says hey, and they exchange words about if she's there with anyone. Willow says that she thought maybe Xander would show up, but he hasn't. Buffy orders a drink, and it comes adorned with cherries. I love cherries so much. It's my favorite part about a cocktail. And asks if the two of them are dating. Willow lets her know that they are just friends and that they used to go out, but they broke up because he stole her Barbie when they were 5. Willow goes on to say that she doesn't date or meet people lately because she doesn't know how to say anything cool or witty or at all. Buffy says it can't be that bad, and Willow affirms that it is, and she thinks that boys want a girl that can talk. Buffy tells her, wow, you really have not been dating lately, and Willow suggests it's probably much easier for Buffy, to which Buffy agrees, and that Buffy doesn't seem too shy. Buffy goes on to tell Willow her philosophy.
Well, my philosophy. Do you want to hear my philosophy? Yeah, I do. Life is short. Life is short. Not original, I'll grant you, but it's true. You know? Why waste time being all shy and worrying about some guy and if he's gonna laugh at you? Seize the moment, because tomorrow you might be dead. Oh, that's nice.
Willow remarks, and Buffy takes notice to Giles up on the second floor of the Bronze, looking down at the crowd, telling Willow, I'll be right back. Oh, that's okay. You don't have to come back, she states innocently to her. Buffy laughs and says that she will return, walking off from Willow. Willow ponders again, saying to herself, seize the moment. I had to write here in my notes. During this shot, we get a good look at Buffy's eye makeup, and it has a soft smoky and a pop of blue, which really accentuates that top in the comments that I were making earlier about her blue looking great on her. And then I also wrote that in my high school senior yearbook, whenever you have your senior picture and you have a quote that you can put in it or whatever statement you wanted, I literally chose this statement to put in there beside my graduating picture. Seize the moment because tomorrow you might be dead. Yes,
What? I did not know that. Of course
I
you did.
did because Buffy is life as we're here. Buffy moves up the stairs to find Giles, confronting him about liking to party with the students. He says no, he's there looking for her, and he'd much rather be at home with a cup of Bovril and a good book. I didn't know what Bovril was, so I looked it up, and apparently it's a UK additive to tea, and it's like a beef flavoring that they put in hot water or
No,
milk, and it's kind of like how we use
no.
bouillon cubes to flavor for culinary purpose, like soups and stews. So apparently in Britain,
Uh,
people just be out here drinking like bone broth or
beef
yeah.
water.
They're like, we don't need the
Beef
beef
water.
broth. We can make it ourselves. Anyways, he says that this is a perfect breeding ground for vampire activity. Buffy suggesting that he lacks personality and needs a new one. He continues that he knew he'd find her there and he needed to make her understand. Buffy stops him, saying she knows that the harvest is coming. She was informed by his friend. He's confused because he doesn't know what she speaks of. She describes
This guy, dark, gorgeous, in an annoying sort of way. I figured you two were buds.
No. The harvest. Did he say anything else?
Something about the mouth of hell. I really didn't like him.
She turns towards the band playing and the crowd. Giles looking on with her. Look at them. He goes on about the people throwing themselves around, not knowing about the dangers among them. Buffy saying, lucky them. Giles continues, or perhaps you're right. Maybe there is no trouble coming, and the signs could be wrong. It's not as though you've been having the nightmares. Buffy's face grows cold, and she's like, fuck, I am having those nightmares, man. She is rendered speechless. We get a moment of Cordelia standing downstairs at the Bronze, announcing to her posse about how her mother doesn't even get out of bed anymore, and how they say Epstein-Barr syndrome, but like no one cool gets that anymore. I will say that massage therapy school is what let me know what that was, and it's actually the virus herpes, but dressed up.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I just called it the herp back in the day.
I want to know when the era of time was when the cool people were getting that.
1997, apparently.
You're only cool if you had
Anyways,
the herp.
once again, Cordelia says that no one cool has that anymore, just as Jessie pops up behind her yelling her name. Oh, great, it's my stalker, she announces. You look great, he tells her, and she shrugs him off, saying, well, I'm glad we had this little chat. He then asks if she'd want to dance. With you, she questions.
Well, yeah.
Well, no.
She gathers her gang and they walk off from him, leaving him standing there alone as he states to himself that he'll continue to be on the prowl because he's a prowl guy. Back upstairs, Buffy moves to another area with Giles and is telling him that she didn't say she'd never slay another vampire, that she doesn't aim to get extracurricular with it. If she sees one, then maybe, sure. He cuts her off. But will you be ready? You don't even know about them, your own powers. Vampires appear to be normal until they are feeding, and then they present their demonic visage. His words, I swear to God. Like, who says visage? Okay, Giles. Going on that the Slayer should be able to see them, take notice without question. He wonders if she could even tell him if there's possibly one in the building. Maybe, she suggests. You should know. You should be able to sense them. Try. She looks out on the crowd as he continues. Reach out with your mind. Hone your senses. Feel the energy wash over you. Focus. There's one. She points out abruptly. What? Where? He's confused. Right there, talking to that girl. You can't know that, he suggests, based off her glance. Oh, please, look at his outfit, she tells him. She picks it apart. He asks if it's dated, and she says it's carbon dated. Only someone living under the ground for 10 years would think that that was still the look. Giles is offended.
But you didn't. Oh.
Not believing her, but she was right, Giles. I'm just going to point that out. Because he clearly a vampire. Right? Don't be doubting Buffy. That's going to be the motto for this show, because people be doubting Buffy. Just as Buffy takes notice that the girl that she suggested the vampire is talking to, oh no, she declares, worried. Willow. What's she doing? Giles asks. Seizing the moment, Buffy walks off, saying she gets downstairs and they are no longer in sight. Eerie music begins to play as she walks into the back room of the Bronze to where the back exit lies. Passing a wooden chair upside down with others on the table, grabbing its leg, snapping off a chunk of it, fashioning a perfectly pointed stake. Shadows appear along the walls, and she motions around the room, opening the doors inside to find nothing. She moves around the room when someone appears behind her. Spinning around to grab them, she pierces their throat with her hand, gripping at their neck and slamming them into the wall. Cordelia! Buffy looks at her in shock as Cordelia does the same and lets go, lowering her stake.
God! What is your childhood trauma? Have you guys seen Willow? Did she come by here? Why? Do you need to attack her with the stick?
Cordelia scoffs, pulling out her phone from her purse as Buffy walks out of the room, ushering to her friends, excuse me, I have to call everyone I have ever met right now. Cordelia got that shit. She about to spam Buffy to everybody. That's how everybody be knowing who Buffy is, because of Cordelia. Back out on the dance floor, Buffy appears to meet Giles. Good job, that was quick, he states, anticipating that she's done her job, saying he needs to get back to the library to research the harvest. Buffy cuts him off frustratedly, telling him that she didn't find them. What do we do, he asks, and Buffy says she'll take care of it. He's just one measly vampire. She walks off and she passes Jessie without noticing him, talking to a girl, the same vampire that killed the boy at the beginning of the episode.
So, what did you say your name was?
Darla.
Darla. I haven't seen you around before. Are you from around here?
Chatting about her family and how they're from around the area. He's curious if he's met them, and she states that he probably will. Yeah, Jessie, you about to get real close and personal with these peeps. In the next scene, we are back in the candlelit dwellings under the ground where the vampire is seen still knelt before this pool of blood. His kneecap got to be hurting him. It begins to bubble just as a body begins to rise up and out from it. Fully emerged, the vampire steps onto the ground from the pool, giving his hand to the vampire on the ground, who takes it, saying, he's like, the master. I am weak, the master says to him. Come the harvest, you will be restored, the vampire says to the master. We're almost there. Soon you will be free. The master stretches out his hand, ripples it in the air, and it shows him fondling a force field that reveals he is not able to move past it, and he is trapped in the lair that he resides in. I must be ready. I need my strength, the master says. I've sent the servants to fetch you food, the lackey vampire tells him. Good. Luke, the master calls him, and we learn his name officially is Luke. Bring me something young. I wrote here that the set for the master is low-key a mood. All the melting candles everywhere away from people. Iconic. The special effects here show that force field that contains the master was actually pretty good CGI for his time because it lets us know that something's kind of
I
keeping him in.
know. I didn't even really
But
consider
literally,
that.
I wanna live.
It's much too nice of a place for him,
Much too
though.
nice, but I kind of want to live here. This is like
Much too
my
nice.
goals. This is what my home in Asheville will look
I
like.
feel like this is what my
Yes,
future
in the
layer will
woods in
look
the
like.
mountains of Ash. We cut to Willow walking outside with the man from the bronze, talking about how it's dark out. He responds, "It's night." She goes on to say she's surprised she hasn't seen him at school, and does he have the same history teacher? He is unamused and continues to walk ahead of her, leading the pathway. She ushers the other direction, stating that the ice cream place is the opposite way. He tells her he knows a shortcut and grabs her hand, pulling her towards a cemetery that they will cut through. Don't be ashamed, Willow. I too, at 16, would have willingly followed a boy into a cemetery if he too had asked me.
I did. I was 17. It wasn't a boy. It was someone we know
Oh,
mutually,
oh, wait,
actually.
maybe someone good.
It was Xana. It was Xana.
That's a name I never thought would be in this podcast. All right, great.
We
Nope,
can
I'm going to
edit
leave
it,
it.
clip it, bleep it, bleep
Uh,
it. Riot, aka Riot.
Insert misery business.
I'm done.
I'm not. Outside the bronze, Buffy is looking for Willow when Xander walks up, calling out if she's leaving already. Buffy asks him if he's seen Willow. He says he hasn't tonight, and Buffy lets him know that she left with a guy. Xander is impressed and starts to commend Willow for scoring at the bronze. Buffy interrupts him. Look, I need to find her. Where would he take her? Why? Xander asks as she starts to walk away. I hope he's not a vampire, because then you might have to slay him, he says. Buffy stops dead in her tracks. Was there a school bulletin? Was it in the newspaper? Is there anyone in this town that doesn't know that I'm the Slayer? She says, looking upon him again. I only know that you think you're the Slayer, Xander feeds back. And the reason why I know that, Buffy cuts him off. You ain't got time to speak, boy. Very much on the edge and in distress. Look, it doesn't matter. Just tell me, where would Willow go? You're serious, he asks. If we don't find her, then there's just going to be one more dead body in the morning. We cut back to the cemetery, and Willow is admitting that this place is scary, and if he's sure that this way is faster. He has a crypt and asks if she's ever been in one. No, thank you, she tells him. Come on, what are you afraid of? He says to her, as he gently pushes a tuft of her hair behind her back to reveal her neck, then grabbing her arm and swinging her into the tomb. That wasn't funny, she snaps at him, annoyed. They walk in circles, pacing around each other. He backs her into a corner. I think I'm gonna go now, she tells him. Is that what you think? He says. I laughed when he said that. He's like, is that what you think? I'm like, ew, like, calm down. She begins to flee back toward the door, only to notice that Darla is now standing there in the frame, blocking him from her from exiting. Is this the best that you could do? She asks the guy. She's fresh, he encourages. Hardly enough to share, Darla snarks. Why didn't you bring your own? He asks. I did, she declares as Jesse comes stumbling in, the crypt behind her out of breath, holding onto his neck, looking disoriented.
Oh my god, Jesse!
You know, he gave me a hickey.
Jesse, are you this clueless? Dude, you're in shock and bleeding. That's an intense hickey, if that's what you're gonna call that shit. Like, what kind of making out does he be doing if he got bitches sucking on his neck like this on the
I
reg?
don't
I mean, I know this
know.
is Sunnydale, but what is happening? Darla looks onto her fellow vampire, who is looking at her with a sly face, shrugs one shoulder, and says, What? I got hungry on the way. Jesse, let's get out of here, Willow says to him, as Darla walks toward them, saying, Oh, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere until we've died. She morphs into that vampire face, and I will tell you that this never happens again because they get good CGI eventually. And this is the worst transition you will ever see. I swear it's like I don't know. They should
In
have did like they
life.
did in the beginning and have her turn her head real quick, then just turn back.
Yeah, no, truly. That's probably why they were like, "We're not gonna do this to people twice. We can only do it
Everyone hates on this
once."
shit, but it is what it is. Willow lets out a scream just as Buffy sprints into the crypt. This is where stuff starts to get good. Xander is behind her. Taking in the scenery and its content, she mocks the space. Well, this is nice. Darla and her fellow vampire turn around to see Buffy.
It's a little bare, but a dash of paint, a few throw pillows. Call it home.
She says to the vampires. Who the hell are you? Darla questions her. You mean there's actually someone in this town who doesn't already know? Phew, that's a relief. I tell you, having a secret identity in this town is a job of work. The vampires begin to encircle her. Buffy, we bail now, Xander motions to the door. Not yet, the vampire says. Buffy takes this time to comment, what is up with his outfit and how he looks like DeBarge? Insult. He should live in the now. They begin to growl at her. Buffy looks onto Darla, the male to her back.
Now, we can do this the hard way, or, well, actually, there's just the hard way.
Buffy informs them. That's fine with me, Darla vocalizes. Buffy goes on.
Are you sure? Now, this is not going to be pretty. We're talking violence, strong language, adult content.
The vampire runs up behind her, growling, rushes at her, and she quickly reaches into her shirt, pulls out her stake, and without turning around, jams it under her armpit, impaling him just as he reaches her. His face becomes alert, realizing what's happened. We see Xander take this in and close his eyes at the sight, just as the vampire falls backwards onto the floor, exploding into a pile of dust. Darla, Willow, Jesse, the whole room looks stunned at what they have just witnessed. See what happens when you roughhouse? Buffy resumes, holding the stake up for Darla to see. I love Buffy's banter. I love how she just says this shit and talks as though she's going to come out on top. Like, it's my favorite thing about her, honestly. Laughing in the face of danger, quite only literally. The dusting also is nice, and it's the first visual effect we see of it. They did this because they were like, well, we can't just have dead bodies laying around everywhere. What will people happen? Like, well, if people come upon this, they're just going to find bodies all over Sunnydale. So they chose to make this visual effect so that way the vampires basically explode into dust and go away. So it's easy cleanup. And I want to note for your knowledge that this apparently cost $5,000 to create. And then every time they used it in the future, it was $2,000 per time they used it for visual effects. So every single vampire that we see get dusted on this show, it was $2,000 for them to use that effect. And we see a good bit of vampires dust across this show. I will say that also
That's
makes sense as
insane.
you're watching the episode too. There's a few vampires that she stakes and we kind of see them die or hear them die off screen. They did not have the budget for all that.
Hell no. I was gonna say, what happens when there's like 10 of them that are going at one
Hey, we
time?
see some cool stuff later. I'm just going to say, I'm thinking of scenes right now.
Oh shit.
Anyways, Buffy is still holding up the stake at Darla, and she comments to Buffy, he was young and stupid. Xander, go, Buffy voices. He gather their friends and leave. Don't go far, Darla adds. As she begins to fight with Buffy, they exchange punches and kicks, with Buffy taking the upper hand, and while distracting Darla, Jesse, Willow, and Xander take off out the crypt and back into the cemetery. Buffy slams Darla to the floor and up against the wall, continuing her banter. You know, I just wanted to start over, be like everyone else, have some friends, maybe get a dog. But no, you had to come here. You couldn't go suck on some other town. Who are you? Darla asks in fear. Don't you know? Buffy replies just as a hand grabs her by the back of the neck, hoisting her up like a rag doll. She grunts as Luke comes into the frame and says into her ear,
I don't care.
and tosses her across the room to the other side. He rips Darla up from the ground by her arm. You were supposed to be bringing an offering to the master, he yells at her angrily. We're almost at harvest and you dally with this child. Darla's whimpering and states, we had someone, but she came. She killed Thomas. Luke, she's strong. He lets Darla go, pushing her slightly towards the exit. You go. I'll see if I can handle the little girl. As Darla looks back once more, she leaves. Buffy hops up, blocks his arms from swinging at her, punches Luke a couple of times, kicking him, knocking him slightly back. You're strong, he humors her, backhands her, declaring that he's stronger. We see the gang. I'm dying of myself right now. We see the gang running through the cemetery as Willow says to them, it's just a few blocks up. They halt, noticing there's a gang of vampires looming just ahead of them. Back in the crypt, Luke tells Buffy she's wasting his time. Buffy retorts that she's also had other plans, and man, as she creates space between the two of them, she divides them with a stone coffin. He slams the lid off and towards her. She flips over the tomb, kicks him to the ground, grabs her stake off the ground, and charges at him. He grabs her arm, stopping her, telling her, "You think you can stop me? Stop us." He grabs her stake with his free hand and crushes it to pieces, rendering her weaponless. She looks at him in shock as he grabs her at the throat by her shirt, jumbling up the cloth, closing with, "You have no idea what you're dealing with," throwing her backwards, her back hitting the coffin's edge and falling to the ground. Buffy faces the ground, catching her breath. He goes on a monologue announcing, I gotta get myself ready. "And like a plague of boils, the race of man covered the earth." Buffy struggles to get up and turn over. We see Giles researching books in the library as he goes on. "But on the third day of the newest light will come the harvest, when the blood of men will flow as wine, when the Master will walk among them once more." Okay, I'm done. I'm officially done. I will not be doing this next episode, but I will. We get
I
a shot
love
of
it.
the Master looking weak sitting on his throne, and then a shot of the vampires looming around the gang and Darla appearing behind Jesse, Willow, and Xander. Oh shit, I forgot he still has dialogue. Well, here we go again. "The earth will belong to the old ones, and hell itself will come to town." Luke closes in on Buffy, kneeling down into her face. He grabs her, growling and flipping her over into the coffin behind them. Buffy screams and lands out of it next to the skeleton's remains, letting out another audible gasp. This is like humorous right there. It's like a little jump scare for her. Buffy's like already nervous to the extreme, and then she's like, "Oh shit!" Like, what? She looks up at the ceiling and goes to start to climb out of the crypt. When Luke hops up and over into it, her laying back down, he announces, "Amen," as he opens his mouth, showing his fangs, as we pause on the image of them about to be connected and him biting Buffy. "To be continued" appears across the screen, and we fade to black. Oh my god, we did it. We made it for the
Phew.
first episode. I don't have this written at all, but I want to commentate on the fact that I don't think I've ever seen a series pilot that like ends on a cliffhanger, like at all.
You're
Like, I mean,
right.
even like
Yeah.
scary ones are like Supernatural or any other show. They usually get all the
Yeah, no
context
way.
out there and then that's that. But I guess it makes sense with the fact that The Harvest immediately followed up right after this.
I have never seen that either. That's a really good point.
Anyways, what are your thoughts on this episode?
Well, it was a very interesting and intense intro to things, and I felt like it was a lot of stuff, but well laid out to where you're not feeling like, "Holy shit, what the fuck's going on? I can't keep up." You know what I mean? Like, I always kinda knew what was going on. But I will say that the way that they ended up just sticking with the most cliche shit that you can recall from the 90s, like, down to the character introduction. You have the new girl, you have the popular girl, you have the nerdy girl, you have the jockey
Yeah.
dude, you have the dude, and then you have Giles, who's, like, the voice of
And don't
reason,
forget
and
Catherine.
I just love that more than anything, in addition to the cliche, like, fashion from the 90s, 'cause I between the hair clip and some of the shit that the boys were wearing, I was like, "Who in the
I
fuck?"
know, right? I really didn't like take note. Well, I mean, I took notice, but other than Willow's outfit, Cordelia's pants, just because I like the green kind of mossy color that they were, and they were like that velvet crushed, like felty kind of like moment that which was totally not late 90s. Everyone was wearing that type of shit.
Yeah.
Um, I really only paid attention to Buffy's outfits because that's most of the time she's slaying, literally.
Is Buffy do they ever I hope this isn't like a spoiler. I can't imagine that it would really matter in context unless you obviously know better than I do. But anyway, do they ever discuss her like birthday? Because I'm like, is she also a Aries as her Buffy
They
self?
do discuss Buffy's birthday. I'll like preface a little bit. I think it's episode 8, an episode entitled "I Robot You, Jane." We see on a computer screen. Not trying to give you too much context, but we see Buffy's files for the school, and they actually have it in one scene where her birthday is visibly like on there as one date, and then another scene later they have it on there and it says a different date. But contextually, there's another future episode a few seasons later where we actually get Buffy herself saying what her zodiac sign is. So I'm just going to leave you lingering there so that way you can find out
Ooh.
later in the context what Buffy
Okay.
is. Like I said, in episode 8 of this season, you'll kind of like, we can have a small discussion about it, but we'll revisit it again in season 4.
Not
Yeah,
till then.
not till then. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But you'll know what
I
she is,
forget that
like,
I even
episode 8. Like, we'll regurgitate this, and I'll let you know, like, with full clarity, because like I said, they have 2 dates in there, so, like, they're trying to say she's 2 different things because they didn't realize the continuity error that they made. Whoever was writing these files
Mhm.
and doing this stuff for the behind-the-scenes shit was fucking shit up, apparently. But I know what Buffy is, and I'm not gonna tell you right now because we'll find out in episode 8. But until then, I think it'd be a fun game we play, like, what zodiac sign is Buffy?
We should just make that a segment and try to guess
Oh,
all
yeah,
the
well,
characters, even
100%.
though you may not know
Mm,
all of them.
yeah, do we find out more? I think there's a couple other times we found out, like, stuff, but I think it's fun to assess as we go on, though, like, "Oh, this person's this person's that." I already have some stuff to throw out there for later with that, but overall thoughts with myself on the episode is I've seen it 7,000 times, but I think this episode is, like, a little bit quick, but also a little bit slow because this episode doesn't have as much to give from, as we're introducing this world, introducing all the characters, but it did a great job, like you said, kinda setting up all the different cliques and all the different types of style of people and how Buffy can fit in with them. I like the whole overall leading up to the cliffhanger, how we get different displays of strengths and everybody can see a vampire get dusted within the first episode. So that way we're not waiting for episode 2 or later episodes to see an actual vampire get slayed and all that. I like her interactions with Giles, and we can already see that he's going to be a good influence on her and that she is also probably not going to want to be letting that happen because she's fighting between being a 16-year-old girl and having this weight of the world quite literally on her shoulders. Like, being burdened as the
Yeah.
only one in all the world, the chosen one. Crazy. What do you think of our characters so far?
I can already tell you that my favorite outside of Buffy is gonna be Giles until further
Yes,
notice.
Daddy Child.
And I think that I love him because he never really evokes a lot of emotion. Number 1, he's just, like, always seemingly chill and there for the intellect, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So, I really, really love him. He's my favorite so far. Cordelia's hot. I'm sure that's, like, a universal opinion
Yes.
for most people who watch Buffy, so there's that. I'll just go ahead and jump on that
Yes, we
bandwagon
stand
now.
Charisma Carpenter. She is beautiful. Even to this day, she is gorgeous. She always keeps her, like, long brunette
Is she
hair.
really? I actually did mean to
Oh,
Google
go
her while
follow
I
her
was
on
watching this
Instagram.
episode to see, like, present day.
No, she's
Okay,
fucking
good to
hot.
know.
And she's, like, involved too
Um,
because she still does a bunch of the cons and stuff. Her, the guy who plays Angel, Darla, and a few other people that I can't really mention and stuff, they all linked up this weekend back in Florida. It was one of the last 2 weekends they did a little con down there, and they all got back together for the first time in a long time. But it was
oh,
cool.
dang. Uh, Jesse, I hated. And, like, I don't know what's gonna happen if he reemerges or if he's just, like, done for now.
Be
So,
interested
yes,
to see what happens.
hate Jesse. And, Xander, I feel like he's one of those I always have this happen in a show where there's, like, a good handful of regular characters, and I feel like he's gonna be the one that grows on me because right now I'm just like, "Meh, I don't know, like,
Oh my god.
you're good, you're fine being there, but I don't understand your purpose other than you're just, like,
That's Xander's
there."
constant theme across all 11 seasons.
Oh, great.
You
Well,
guys
that's
remember
amazing.
when you're listening to this that Courtney said that she's most excited to see get Xander's character growth. She thinks that he's the one that will grow on her. I'm dead.
I mean, I'm
I do like
hopeful, but
Xander.
maybe I'm
I low
wrong.
key, I will say that I like Xander.
Um, yeah, and although I don't know, I guess I assume for a 90s guy, people maybe were swooning over Angel, I'm not even sure, but mm-mm. He just was annoying to me right
Yeah.
away, like,
I think that was a point because obviously Buffy
right
was immediately annoyed with him as well.
yeah, but you can already tell that they're setting up some sort of, like, love connection or something. You can tell there's, like, romantic chemistry or something between him and Buffy. They're doing a good job setting that up,
Most
so,
definitely, especially as we kinda see,
yeah.
like, how she talks with him a little bit in episode 2 and as we go forward.
And I think it's just their banter, they go sarcastically back and forth with each other, and while she has that exchange with, like, Xander to an extent, it's just a different energy there, so I was just already like, "Okay, they're gonna fall in love."
Aw, that's a nice little well, that's interesting. That kinda, like, leads into our last little bit that we'll talk about in a second, but that's a nice little thing. Do you have a quote for the episode?
I have several. The the dresses, when she's holding up the dresses and she was talking about, "Would you like a copy of the Watchtower?" That one really got me. Angel saying, "I didn't say I was yours," to her talking about him being her
Yeah.
friend. Yeah, that got me too. Hold on, I feel like there was one other.
While you find that, mine was "Seize the Moment" because Chimari might be dead because I have to stick with a classic.
Of course. Oh, when Cordelia was like, "What is your childhood trauma?"
That is literally the funniest part. I will say I have to add
I love
now
that.
too, while I'm thinking on it, my second favorite quote of the episode would be like, "Not to interrupt your downward mobility," because I will be using that in the future.
Yes, yes,
So many more. I'm gonna have to
yes.
remember to pop up a couple of extra ones in the future. But as for our next little things that we'll be doing every episode will be who's our shining slayer. So who is the person that you saw giving off those hero vibes or like thinking that helped save the moment, save the day, did the things? Mine is Buffy, duh, because obviously.
Obviously.
But we didn't have too much go down, but Buffy showed up to kind of like help everybody, even though she's in danger by the end.
Yeah. No, I fully second that. It was definitely Buffy for me.
Honorable mention for Mr. Flutie. Just because whenever she first got there, he's like, "You know what? This is your new start, a fresh perspective on everything. Let's rip this paper up and tape it back together 2 seconds later." But he was like a vibe. He wanted her to feel welcome, and he wanted her to let her know that a clean slate is what you get here, Buffy.
That's true.
Anyways, our other little one that we're gonna be doing is called our weekly Wiggins, because Buffy be getting the Wiggins. But what gave you the Wiggins?
The
The
master.
master? What about the master?
I mean, everything. First question is, why is he, like, repellent to blood because he emerges from this bloodbath without a single drop of blood actually on him? I'm like, "Wait a second.
Yes.
What's going
No,
on?"
100%. I've heard this contextually so much across the Buffyverse with people. I don't know why he does not come out and have
Wait, I'm not the only one who noticed
no,
that?
you're not. Everybody talks about it.
Okay,
It's
good.
just the CGI. I guess it's the fact that he is risen from that blood. Like, you would think that he'd be like, "Where's my fucking towel or whatever? I need to wipe this shit off me. Where's my shower? Somebody spray me down with some non-holy water," like all the things. But no, I don't get how that happened at all. That is 100% the thing that most people commentate on. I love that that was yours. I did not expect that to be like what you followed up with, but I like that the master is who gave you the Wiggins. I got the Wiggins from Willow eating them fucking raisins because I ain't got no time for nobody having no raisin snack. Mm-mm.
I will say that I put in my notes, of course, Willow would, in quotations, seize the day with a vampire or seize the moment.
She's like, "I'm gonna hop on board. I'm gonna do this," and then get
I'm like,
killed.
of course, out of all the guys. Also, point me in the direction of the club that's letting high school students into
I think
this
it's because it's
degree.
the only thing to do in town. Obviously, this town's got a lot of stuff like not working for them, but also working. This town is like
Nah,
its own little all
and
these things
dementia.
like that mysteriously happen. Anyways, our last little segment is
Yeah.
what we're going to be calling Slayerette predictions. As Courtney is a featured Slayerette, we are going to ask what you think will happen next.
Well, I'm gonna assume that Buffy gets out of whatever you want to call that thing and probably, hopefully, kicks that guy. What is that guy's
Luke.
name that you keep doing the voice
I'm
for?
Luke.
Yes. I hope he dies, but hopefully she just kills him. That's my prediction, and she gets out of there, and obviously more shit will be occurring as we're only in episode 1. So there will be more vampire slaying. I'm sure we'll see more of Angel. Hopefully the master does something with himself. And also, I will note that the master is the most entitled piece of shit because he's just down there shouting off demands while complaining that he can't surface. And I'm like, well, why don't you go do something?
He could be lighting those candles and cleaning up the blood off the
He's
floor.
like us in the Airbnb in New York lighting 27
Literally,
candles.
though. But I mean, I guess they can't see down in the dungeon. All right. Well, we made it through our first episode, and we'll be back for our next one after the to be continued in Zen and Luke digs into Buffy's neck. I
Oh, I
love it
love
as
it.
well. All right, great. Well, until next time, we'll see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Buffy on Revamped. Remember to join us next week for a new episode release as we continue our journey through Sunnydale. We also would like to hear from you, so share your thoughts. Discuss with us your perspectives on this or previous week's episodes by following us on Instagram and sending us a DM at revamped_rewatch podcast.
Or by emailing us at revampedrewatchpod@gmail.com. Additionally, we will be choosing one of your messages to shout out in an upcoming episode release. And don't forget, if you're looking for a friend and some unsolicited advice for the times when life feels out of orbit, go follow Life in Retrograde Podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, the Earth is definitely doomed. This podcast is dedicated to the Buffyverse, to its fans, and my sister, Tiffany Dawn Pearson.